Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. My name's James Sleaford, I'm at Incubeta, and I'm delighted today to be joined by the two co-founders of Groundswell, who are our latest acquisition of part of the Incubeta family. That's Richard McKnight and Lilley. So welcome guys, thanks for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to spending 10-15 minutes chatting with the guys now about the history of Groundswell and how it came to be and their backgrounds. Hopefully get a few tips and pointers from them and the trends that they're seeing in e-commerce and the broader digital industry. And also just to chat about the potential future partnership and what our customers can expect to see from us in the future. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over, I think, to Richard to start off with, just to try and give us a bit of the background and history of Richard and Mark and how Groundswell started.
Yeah, thanks, James. So yeah, obviously, Mark and I have known each other for a long time. Started back, we were from the same area. We went to the same grammar school, albeit Mark is a few years older. I'll let you guess by how much. But our paths properly crossed whenever we both left university and we started working for an NI-based e-com agency. Really, the agency thrived off the partnership they had with Chain Reaction Cycles, global leader in terms of the bike industry and selling across hundreds of markets and obviously multi-language as well. So it gave us a huge intro to the world of e-commerce and everything that was involved in growing a successful business online. Our sort of path then moved from being in that agency to being brought in-house to Chain Reaction, and we were there for a number of years. Mark headed up the e-com function. I was very much focused on the digital advertising side of the business, but that really brought our passion for e-com, our expertise obviously grew in that environment. And to be fair, it was probably a market leader above a lot of UK and European-based businesses in terms of how they approached retail and selling online. In terms of Groundswell, obviously it stemmed from that initial relationship of working together, but ultimately our background of being client side. And when we were in the business, we did notice that while there was a lot of good individual service providing agencies, there was hardly any that really provided that expertise around, how does e-commerce work? What are the different areas that are involved in making a successful e-com business? And that's ultimately what we wanted to try to do, which was bridge that gap between, individual isolated services and bringing the thing together to help guide and support companies that had huge ambitions to grow. And as an agency, we've firmly put into our philosophy of what we've done from day one, which is about helping high growth, high potential businesses, acting as an extension of their team and ultimately letting them get on with what they're good at, and our team giving guidance, support and managed services to help them grow.
Richard, thanks for that overview there in terms of the history of you guys. It seems very much a family business, really, with you both going to school together. And it's interesting, you've joined very much a family global business in terms of Incubeta now. Just picking up on what you mentioned about the client side experience and you noticing that from being client side that you weren't necessarily getting a lot of that from external support. What do you think the real difference is from having that client side background and you managed to bring to your roles at Groundswell?
Yeah, a good question, James. And I think what we benefited greatly from client side when we joined, as Richard mentioned, we'd already been in e-commerce. We've got a very fortunate background in our timings that we joined e-commerce early. And effectively we're an agency. We were a software development agency in its early days, and then when Google offered the opportunities of advertising, we were first there and learned hands-on. That agency grew to become advertising and development from an e-com platform. So when we joined Chain Reaction, we had good knowledge of website experience, development and advertising, customer acquisition ultimately. And then our years within Chain Reaction just allowed us to be exposed to all of the real world operations. So retail in general, buying, managing products, operations, finance, and we were fortunate there, and we held reasonably senior roles. We had a lot of autonomy. The business was great, so we were exposed to quite a bit. So just from commercially, from a P&L, what's important. And it was when we combined both, we remained hands-on in our own areas as well. And when we combined both of those, we just realized that there's a hybrid of consultancy and real world advice, as well as being very specialist at core services. And that's what we couldn't find in the market.
Yeah, it's interesting how your background and heritage from a software development point of view has also impacted what you bring from a business perspective. We speak to lots of agencies that have come from a pure marketing background or a pure creative background, and I suppose that heritage does kind of ingrain itself in what the modern day services are you provide, right? Having that technical know-how.
Yeah, and you can see, everything is reliant on data and technology. You look at how performance marketing is run now, there's so much in terms of making sure you're getting the right data sources going into the channels to make them operate the way they should, and ultimately how you can use different streams of advertising and how that on-site engagement works. So I think as Mark said, what really helped us when we went to market was the fact that we had real strong capabilities in development, but we could align them to real world. How do you actually advertise? How do you find customers and persuade them to obviously buy?
Yeah. And in terms, obviously, you from a client side perspective, as you mentioned, you experienced massive growth in the cycling industry. Probably a very good time to be getting involved with the cycling industry as well, right? It was very much when it really kind of boomed from a UK market perspective. In terms of trends that you see, currently, obviously, COVID has had a massive impact in the industry. But I'm keen just to get your thoughts on maybe trends which have probably been a bit longer term than the last 12 months, and also potentially then focusing particularly on COVID and how it's accelerated things. What you see maybe the impact when we go back to work full time.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of probably partly shift and a big part acceleration. James, two of the direct to consumer in general is a massive growing area. It was a massive growing area, and has been accelerated last year. When Groundswell started, 4 years ago, we were very retail experienced, and that's where we played a lot. And then certainly in the last 2 years, direct to consumer has become much bigger. And last year, what we've seen, I would class a shift more in smaller businesses just being forced to have a go, and to be fair to a lot of them, actually having a go and doing a great job. So realizing how quickly they can get some stuff to market. That's one of our plays is in helping a smaller business get to market quickly and cost effectively. Technology advancements allow that, and our ability to activate channels and advertising quickly helps. So a shift in smaller businesses moving quickly, and of course, businesses have had to pivot and think. So what has been sold online last year compared to the year before in relation to food, cafe, cars, you name it.
I agree. I've got a recipe. I have the recipe boxes coming through now, and I never would have considered them beforehand. It's bizarre because I probably needed them more when I was in the office and having to get home. But as it is, I'm at home and I've actually started to get more of the delivery boxes through.
So we see, that I'd say that shift, the more acceleration we've seen, which has been happening in the background more so and is now more forefront, is established B2B businesses. So big manufacturers, traditional B2B businesses who were dabbling or thinking about their own direct-to-consumer channels have all of a sudden ramped budget into that, made the decision at maybe the top level that they were concerned about. The big area we find for very valid reasons of concern is a traditional business wholesaling is selling their product into a retail network, and the retailer ultimately has the relationship with the customer and is online, whereas very much so everybody is having to think, well, hold on, I need to go direct to the customer to communicate with them, understand them, and continue to sell to them. So I'd class the B2B side more of a big acceleration. It was already happening, but it's now very much the forefront of the boardroom.
Yeah, I suppose on the B2C side, a lot of it had already been, the democratization of things had already happened, right? With a lot of the, as you mentioned, the technical advances, the easy to use platforms. It's been around for some time now, but we've seen as well that B2B is catching up on that side of things. In terms of like potential opportunities and developments you're hoping to see that are born out of the new partnership with ourselves, where do you see that going from that perspective? Obviously, you're based in Belfast at the moment. Presumably, you're looking more globally from a client perspective, and obviously you bring new services and skills to the Incubeta family. How do you see that panning out?
Yeah, I suppose for us, like the excitement around joining Incubeta came from, one, we knew some of the team. We had experience working with some of the team from previous roles, but I think the main thing for us was it opens up a huge amount of opportunity for our team here in Belfast, our client base. We have clients across the globe, some in the US, a lot in the UK and Europe, but really it helps us with access to things that we wouldn't be able to get. For example, you've got Joystick there, a really good creative agency. You've got DQ&A from a sort of technology standpoint, and obviously the big media management side with NMPI within the group. So from our perspective, it opens the door to a lot of things. It opens the door to a lot of learning that might be very difficult to get in the industry. And I suppose from our perspective, what we want to bring to the group is we hope we can bring a lot of our expertise in e-commerce. We are a small agency, but one of the things that very clearly was evident when we were going through the process and our discussions was, we've real strength in how e-commerce works, how we can help the group communicate at the right levels within certain clients, either existing or new, and offer a different perspective than maybe the groups ever had before. And I think that's the blend of the excitement. It's what we can get from learning and advancements in existing clients, but equally what we can bring in to help existing clients within Incubeta.
I think, and James, just to add to some of that, just there's a great excitement around it, and we believe timings wise, things couldn't be better. When Richard and I created Groundswell, we created Groundswell as a business was created by being experts in a certain area, as opposed to being, let's create a business that can tap into current demand. So of course there was e-commerce demand at the time, but very much so we were an expert outfit and we were growing a business by being experts. I think those two things have rapidly combined. Market demand for e-commerce has never been greater. The need for experience, skills has never been greater. And Groundswell's position now as a good business with a great team, but putting that into, as Richard said, we're small, but joining the group and just having that wider moat, let's say, of all the additional services we can now talk to clients about, and then from a Groundswell side, bolt on to your already sort of industry leading other services is very exciting. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's there are so many more requirements that are put on businesses from a marketing, particularly digitally wise these days, that you need a real broad cross section of skills and expertise to deliver the full package, right? And I think consultancy brings it all together. But helping businesses understand what they need, what they're missing, and helping get that narrative understood within the broader business is crucial, right? To bring all of those elements together.
Yeah, and I think what we touched on, one of the, from client side, when we were leaving client side, one of the big areas, and a bit more specific to e-commerce, but depending on the business and the background in the business, e-commerce can be led by a sales function, a marketing function, or an IT function. It just depends on the nature of the history of the business. And the big thing that was happening in our last year's client side was where a CIO and a CMO or a CTO who becomes responsible for certain things. So there's almost now a marketing function division wing of the business almost has more technology than an IT side of the business. So, timings of that and being able to discuss with clients, look, we've seen where this has become problematic, where people haven't got the right people involved. Siloed traditional businesses they're all trying to do the right thing. They're all trying to improve a business and gain results. But e-commerce brings in this is your whole business. This is your digital presence in your channel. So you guys need to be talking together, and that's look, we all see it. The leaders in e-commerce in our market are the ones that they're either reasonably new, or they have realized at a certain point, do you know what, guys, this is how it's got to be. And e-commerce had it. Look, it's in the past. There's a theory of it's a technical thing, so people don't go near it, or it's a marketing driven thing or a creative thing. The reality of how we talk to clients is it's about business growth, and it doesn't matter if you're selling coffee or products online. You need more customers, get them to buy more, and get them to come back and buy. And it's those principles that we just need to do online now. It's the same thing that's always been there for business.
Exactly. It's not one thing, it's the whole business, it's everything basically. And we see it when businesses get it right, don't we? When we're at home and we're on our phones and we see the same people cropping up again and again on whatever feed it may be that you're looking at, who are getting it right. So just in closing then, obviously we talked about lots of things that are happening both in the organisation and broaden obviously your previous experience. But if you just to kind of pick out one thing and one trend or one thing to keep an eye on in the future, what would it be? Richard, yourself first.
Yeah, so I suppose with how much content people are consuming in the home on smart TVs, the Netflix, for example, where people are wanting advanced personalization. So for us, when we look at that from a retail perspective, retailers are having to stay ahead of this curve of what consumers are engaging with through entertainment. So if we think about Netflix and how that operates, I mean, it will personalize what you see when you load in to that device, what you're watching your content on. And that will be based on, genres that you like, previous things that you viewed, previous things that you may have engaged with before. We see that retail is moving towards that. And I think that the bigger retailers that are selling multiple brands and multiple categories, they're going to have to adapt to ensure that this expectation from the consumer is being given. So, when we look at it and we say, look, how do retailers keep pace if, people want to land on a site and be given brands that they think they will like, be recommended categories and products and areas that they think is suitable. That's the big thing that we'll see over the next few years, I think, in e-commerce, that evolving, because it's less reliance on, going on and trying to hope that someone's going to buy a product. There's a lot more persuasive things happening. We see it with influencer marketing across social. We see it with how the entertainment industry's evolved in terms of recommending content for users to view. I think that's going to translate into retail as well.
And what would Netflix say about your watching interest, Richard?
Well, I think at the minute with 2 young kids, it's very cartoon focused and so on. But anything to get us through the day, I think, with two babies in the house. But yeah, look, I mean, from a perspective, any downtime you tend to get, Netflix seems to be the go-to now, and I think that's what a lot of people have had to go through over the last few lockdowns.
Indeed. And Mark, yourself, what's your one big trend?
Yeah, I think there's something nice about what last year has, as I said earlier, sort of forced a smaller business to get into is realize just the opportunities in front of people. So, we're seeing smaller brands launching products, individuals launching products, and the passion that comes through on that. Social is enabling people to talk direct to customers very easily. And that continued, technology's allowing it. People becoming very comfortable to remove themselves from the traditional, I must work hard, get a job, stay in that job for 20, 30 years, retire and move on. Whether we class that as e-commerce, I think in general, it's the future world. You can communicate very quickly to the world. You can launch a product. You can get stuff wrong and it's okay. That shift and trend is what I think is exciting for young people coming into the market, graduates, years experience, and that, and continuing that. And to be honest, it's where in our Groundswell days, you know, we love to get involved with big business and help to problem solve and help with strategy, direction, and execution. But we've also over the years had a number of clients who are very small businesses, and you see the immediate impact it has for them, their families, their small teams doubling in size, tripling in size, and that's I think I think that's very nice to think about for the future.
Yeah. Anything that, you know, brings down barriers society-wise in general is a great thing, right, at the end of the day. And I think that's you know, you mentioned family again there, Mark. It's probably a nice point to bring the conversation to the close. Big tip from me is for everybody to keep an eye out and watch out for Incubeta Groundswell over the coming months and years. Very excited to have you on board and joining the Incubeta family. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.